All right, well, welcome and thank you for giving me a little bit of your time and attention this afternoon on a Friday afternoon. I appreciate you guys being real troopers. We want to talk a little bit about the State Center Community College District Safe app, which I'm possibly going to be calling the Ready Ed app as well. So I'm going to use those terms interchangeably a little bit. So just to let you know that I'm talking about the same application. My name is Omar Gutierrez. I'm the Vice President for Administrative Services, and we're going to just discuss the app today. All right, so I did want to tell you that there's two solutions that we have in place here at Fresno City College that deals with returning to campus. One of them has to do with events or quote unquote large masses of people. We call that the return to campus plan. That is reviewed by a task force. Those plans are reviewed by task force and approved, and then move over to our EMS scheduling software as an approved event to hold. I did want to mention that because some of you guys may know that that's happening. A lot of you guys have been interactive with that process. But today we're going to talk a little bit about our new Ready Ed app, which we transitioned from the Microsoft Forms model that we had previous to January semester to the Ready Ed app that we're going to be talking about today. So what is it? It's an app that you can download on your phone. And if you don't want to download it, we'll talk a little bit about alternate way to capturing that information. It does two major things. It provides us with a way to ask you a health screening questionnaire. We'll discuss that in just a little bit. And as well as letting us know which locations you have entered for contact tracing purposes. So it's a QR code solution. The QR code solution is on a per building level. The app, it can be downloaded from an Apple or Android device, either way. And then the web link that you see there, which we will be dropping on the chat somewhere so you have access to it, is the way to go and access the same solution that is not on a web, not app-based. So if you are an employee or a person that does not want to download the app, it's okay. We can still capture that information utilizing your browser, okay? And we'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. We're actually gonna walk through that on the browser itself. So again, what is the Ready Ed app? It's a mobile app solution. It's meant to be utilized daily. And there are some screening questions, so we'll get to them in just a little bit, so you'll see them. I think there's 4, if I'm not mistaken, 4 questions that you have to answer. And once you answer those questions, those screening questions, if you answer them that you're not feeling any COVID-type symptoms, you'll get what is called a green pass. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute as well. The green pass will allow you to use the app to start scanning the QR codes. So once you get the green pass, you can go ahead and use the app to scan the QR codes that are placed within the FCC buildings. You cannot use your camera to scan the codes. You have to use the app in order for this system to work, okay? And you only have to scan it one time. So if you enter, I'm going to use an example, OAB. If you enter the OAB building, you just scan it one time. You don't have to scan out. You just scan one time, and that's all it takes. So if you go to a different building, there'll be a QR code for the different building that you're visiting. You'll scan that code just once. Again, this effort is to gather information for contact tracing purposes. It is our job as a district to make sure that we notify that employee that entered that building, that vicinity, of whether or not they may have been in contact, whether it be close contact or potential close contact, which is less than 6 feet or more than 6 feet, with notifications whether or not they need to take further precautions. So that's the solution is built to cover that particular scenario. So this is what the app would look like if you went to the Apple iOS store or the Android OS store, which I don't know if that's what they call it in Android. I'm an Apple user, so if I said that incorrectly in Android, that's my mistake. But it's the SCCCD Safe app. You can search it or bring it up. This is what it looks like in those stores. It's free, so obviously you are more than welcome to try to do that now if you have not done so already. So again, it's a pre-screening device. It does ask you those questions. It's a case monitoring from the perspective of trying to give you information based on the buildings that you visited, whether or not you may have been exposed to somebody that has had COVID in those same locations on the same time that you visited those locations. And contact tracing is the reason that we're doing it. It's something the California law prescribed to us, and we're trying to comply with it. Well, the pre-screening
question.
Yes.
We have a question on the QR code. Do we scan the code one time per that day or one time per the week?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's one time per day. So one time per day. Once a day. Thank you, Susie. So again, it's a pre-screening device. The app will ask you questions specifically relating to symptoms. If you answer them that you do not have COVID-like symptoms, you'll get this thing called the Green Pass. We call it Green Pass. I'm sure they call it health pass here from the app perspective, but it's green, so we call it the Green Pass. And you'll notice that it gives you on a per day basis. So I guess this is a question that was just asked. You get this on a per day basis, so you do this daily. You'll get this Green Pass, so you'll say you're clear. Once you get this Green Pass, once you get it, then you're able to start scanning if you have the app on your phone, on your mobile device. This is the screen. Once you open the actual app, this is the menu that you will see. This little guy here at the corner, that is the actual, I guess, quote unquote camera. It would prompt the camera to open on your mobile device to start scanning those QR codes that we have placed in every single of our buildings here at FCC. You have to utilize the app to do that. If you use your phone camera alone without the app, you will get an error that it's not working. So again, there's two ways to provide input. One of them is the QR code safe app. I took a picture of the QR in there for one of the buildings just to put it in here, but the actual QR code page that are in every single building, it has the QR code that looks like what you're seeing on your screen now, and the name of the building as well. Do notice that exact precision doesn't need to occur for QR code purposes. So you won't see, for example, again, I'm going to use the OAB. You'll see one QR code that says OAB. There's no OAB first floor, second floor. It's just the OAB. We have to put all this information at the state level on a per building basis. So we're trying to comply with the state law in that manner. Again, this is the Ready Ed app web link, which we are going to actually go through one utilizing the web link so you can see and feel what it looks like. This takes you to the portal. Just want to let you guys know that it takes you straight to the portal. You have to scroll down a little bit to get this particular screen. So on the SCCCD resource links, it's usually the third link that you'll see. That is where you find the web link to then answer the questions on the website if you are able to download the app on your mobile device, which is fine. If you don't want to download the app on the mobile device, it's fine. You can still give us the information that we require from you by utilizing the portal and then the website that you see within the portal. Before I answer your questions, I'm going to go ahead and show you the actual link. So hopefully, can people see that now? Hopefully.
Yes.
So let me show you. This is my portal. I'm going to sign in real quick. Just scroll down, and it's usually the third. This is where the web link is at. Once I click that, it takes me to this menu. And you'll notice you don't have to put your state center ID or anything like that. It's just your email. So it's only asking you for your email and your name. So you enter your email. I know it says clovis.edu. Kind of ignore that. I've asked them to kind of leave that blank and just pick a college or something, but our district office kind of left it alone from when they first assigned it. So just ignore that and put your name. It obviously pre-populates it because I've done this before. And then you press continue. It's going to tell you, hey, you got to answer the pre-screening questions right off the bat. Like, okay, go for it. These are the questions you got to answer before you get to scanning, or in this case, letting us know which building you actually visited. So you'll notice it has to do everything with your health and how you're feeling if they're COVID-related symptoms. I won't read them off for you. I'll leave this open a little bit. But you'll get this one in the same pre-screening questions will appear in your app as well. It's exactly the same. So I'm going to answer that I don't have any of those symptoms within the last 10 days or at any time. Again, all of you guys have access to this, so it's not, you don't have to take a screenshot of this. You can just go and log in yourself and take a look at it. It's really something you can take a look at, no problem. And it's going to ask you, what location are you visiting today? So obviously I'm going to put Fresno City College. It's going to tell me, okay, which Fresno City College location. I'm going to be on the main campus. Obviously you see CTC, Bitwise, FPU North. We have a first responder classroom that we have up there in the SICK Institute that we also have some classes going on over there. So we're trying to maintain all FCC locations, official locations where we do hold classes. And you'll notice there's 2 pages. You'll see page 1 of 2. So if you don't see your building on page 1, you have to, like, this is weird, but you have to, because you'll notice it's ghosted. You cannot go to the next page unless you select something. So you'll pick this guy right here to go to the next page. Okay, so if you don't see your building on page 1, it'll be on page 2. Okay. I might just pick Forum Hall for the sake of this example. I'm going to go next. And it's going to ask me, am I going to visit any other locations today? If you say no, you're done. If you say yes, it takes you back to square one, basically, and then you have to go through the process of selecting another building, okay? I'll press no, it should tell me I'm done. Well, it's going to tell me, are you planning on visiting any other colleges within the district, which I'm going to say no. And I'm going to submit the form. And here it's going to give me this message. And what it'll do, because I enter my email address at the beginning, it's going to email my quote unquote green pass to me. It's going to send me a link to my email saying, hey, you answered the questions for March 18th. You're clear. And then you're done. That's it. At this point in time, you can go ahead and close that tab and that's it. I wanted you to get a feel of what it looks like on the web page. The feel on the phone is the same as far as from a question perspective. Actually, I think it's a little bit easier just because of the screen size and the interaction with the app, but they're the same questions. There's no difference whether it be enter via the mobile app or the website or the web link, okay? Either one will work. So again, if you are okay downloading the app, do it on your phone. If you're not okay with downloading that on your phone or your mobile device, that's fine. Make sure that you do go visit this particular link on a daily basis and go through this process for the buildings that you have visited. Now, the disadvantage is that for those that visit multiple buildings, for example, TSS in building services, they do have to go through this process and choose every single location that they actually visit. It's tedious, I guess, in many ways from a web link perspective, but again, it's helping us make sure that we have the contact tracing mechanism to notify you if something happens within that location that you did visit. So it's a way to communicate with each other. That's all I have for today. As far as make sure that you interact with this information as it's designed to be interacted with. If people have any questions, I'll take a look at the questions and answers box here, but if you have a question that you would like to raise your hand for, we'll go ahead and pick on those that do have those and then have them voice their questions and we'll have some sort of interaction here.
I have one. If the person isn't going to use their cell phone, they're going to use the website. Should they be doing that before they go into the office?
Well, the
or
problem
can
is,
they do it when they're on campus?
they can do it when they're on campus. I mean, obviously, you had already made a determination that you're not feeling COVID-like symptoms to be on campus, right? I mean, that's, if you're on campus and you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't have been here because I have COVID-like symptoms. Well, you shouldn't be here, right? You should have been talking to your boss at that point in time, or having a conversation with your supervisor and making that phone call already, right? So it's fine to come to campus if you're not feeling that, and obviously going through this process when you're utilizing your work computer, that's perfectly fine. That shouldn't be a problem at all. But the only caveat obviously would be if you already felt COVID-like symptoms, then maybe this is not the place you want to visit. And obviously contact your supervisor.
And then somebody's put in the bookstore building does not have a QR code. Will that be updated?
No, they do have one. We don't call it the bookstore building. I think it's called student activities. I would have to take a look at the actual name of it, but it's not called the bookstore. So there are QR codes associated with that space as well. Now, you may not necessarily see one inside the bookstore. That it could be a possibility. Depends on where the QR code was posted within. It was up to the deans and their directors to put the QR code in visible areas. So if you don't see one inside the bookstore, maybe that's the question is implying. But the building, it does have some QR codes. We obviously have a trio and site services upstairs. So we ended up calling it, I think on our maps, it's called student activities / something. I don't know if it's pantry, maybe it's a / pantry. But it should have a code.
Is it called the student center?
Possible. I don't have that in front of me, but it's not called the bookstore building. So if that's what people were looking for, that's not what it's called. But it should have a QR code.
And what if it doesn't? What if, say you go into the bookstore and you say, where's your QR code? And they say, oh, we don't have it. And I'm just using the bookstore as an example, even though you said it has.
Well, thank you, Susie. Sorry, I'm answering your question before you finish your question. So my apologies. But no, to your point, we just print one and put one up. I mean, we have them handy. Every single dean has been given a quote unquote master, so they can print however many they want and put them in places they felt were high traffic spaces. So we'll just print one and put it there. I think I'm going to go through the question and the questions in the Q&A, if that's okay. The two that I see right off the bat is the bookstore one. I'm not sure what SC means, Keelan.
Student center.
So, okay, thank you. It could be. I don't have it memorized, so my apologies. But there is a QR code for that building because we utilize the map. So whatever the map calls the actual building, that's what we named it. Kathy, so we provided all the QR code masters to the deans and directors, and they chose their locations based on population entrances and where high traffic areas were going to be. We asked them to do that, number one, and we also asked them to place it in a way people can see them. So eye level and things of that nature. So that was our direction, I guess. So every single dean and or director was provided with the master, which they still have. It's a PDF, so it's something that they can print up on any time. Keelan, two separate buildings. Are we talking about the bookstores too?
Student center encompassing student activities and the bookstore building.
Right. You have to, when I say student activities, I don't mean their location by the cafeteria. I meant that they run the pantry. So my mistake if I was saying student activities from a perspective of where their office is located. So it's the RAM pantry, and I call it student activities, but to your point, Susie, earlier, I think it might have been student center. So we're talking about the same building, not two separate buildings. So it could be just the language that I use or the terms that I use, but I'm talking about the same exact building. Janine, give me a second. I'm not sure if I'm understanding. So if you need the Ready app for off-campus events, only for state center buildings, you'll need the Ready app. So if you do visit an official state center site, you will need that Ready app. So if you go to Clovis or Herndon, for example, you'll need the Ready app. Madera and Oakhurst, Reedley, obviously CTC for us in FCC, and then the other locations that you saw earlier, which is the SIG Institute, FPU North, Bitwise, and then I just went blank on the last one that I think we had, which I think that's it actually. So any district facilities, you will need the Ready Ed app.
So Janine works in college relations. they do a lot of outreach at the high school. So she's probably wondering, so Janine, if you're coming to campus, if you're starting out at campus, yes, you'll need to use the Ready app. But obviously the high schools aren't on there.
Correct. Yeah, I guess that's my run-up to kind of say that. Yeah, off campus wants to, they have their own solutions, I assume, something similar from maybe another vendor they could have. You're gonna need to deal with whatever the high schools are mandating for visitors at that point in time. Yeah, thank you, Jenny. Right.
And Jennifer wants to know if the QR code is supposed to be at all entrances for each area.
Possible. Again, my directive, I guess, if you want to call it that, or my suggestions to the folks putting them up is that it be in areas where they're going to be high level of traffic so people can see them. Number one, and number two, that it'll be visible, that you don't have to go searching for it, basically, that it's easy to spot. So those are the main things that we provided guidance on. But again, we provided this information to the folks that know their buildings best, to be honest with you. So we give it to the deans, we give it to the directors. They know their buildings traffic better than I do. So we allowed them to put however many they would like. Again, we provided PDFs. They're still there. I mean, it's on a team site, so they're still having access to them. So it's up to them to see what those traffic areas look like within their building. And then obviously, so it's visible and people don't have to go, oh, it's only on the second floor of the OIB or something, as an example, right? That'll be extremely inconvenient. So it's supposed to be something that you're not going hunting for. It should be easily available to you as you enter the building. It may not necessarily be the door, and maybe that's the question. It could be inside or right inside, I'm not sure, but it has to be visible and readily available.
And then there's a couple other questions, Omar. Virginia's been answering them, and thank you for that, Virginia. But I'm just going to ask them so that they're on the recording.
Sure.
Because the recording won't show the Q&A.
Okay.
And hold on, let me scroll down to, just to confirm, do we need to scan our home building daily?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, where you work at daily, yes. So the scan is for a daily scan, yes.
And then the screening question, it gives you the list of symptoms or none.
Yes.
Is this the only question that determines if you are allowed to enter the campus?
That's it.
What is the protocol if you cannot answer that you and everyone are well/undetermined of where symptoms are from?
It's really technical from the perspective. I think if you are borderline, that's a conversation you need to have with your supervisor. I think that's probably the best way to answer that. Reach out to your supervisor, tell them your situation, and then determine whether or not it'd be prudent for you to be visiting the campus based on whatever it is that you're feeling. But those are the only questions that are available to be answered in order to get, quote unquote, the green pass. The opposite will be a red pass if you answer that you have any of those symptoms. And technically, you're not supposed to come into the campus if you have a red pass. And the app is supposed to not let you scan if you get a red pass either. So that's on a technical level, that's how the app is set up that way. I realize there's different nuances because the questions are they're kind of broad in many ways as well, but that's the questions that we have available to us. Those are the questions that we have available to us. So if it's something that you feel is borderline yes or borderline no, or maybe you could have checked it, I suggest you reach out to your supervisor and have a discussion to guide you through that process.
And then someone asked, for those that get seasonal allergies and are testing negative, they're still quote unquote showing symptoms per the app questionnaire. What would you like them to fill out then?
I think that's very similar to the previous question from my perspective. I think you have a conversation with your supervisor. Tell them exactly this, hey, I have this type of allergies. I'm feeling okay. I know that I get this on an annual basis, no matter COVID period, no COVID period, so if you know yourself. So I think it's fair to, if you know that this is an allergy type of symptoms that you're describing or you're feeling, and you want to obviously be honest and answer that question the right way, I think it'd be a good thing to also call your supervisor and have that discussion. What is supposed to happen, which I didn't say, but I'll say it now, is that if you get a red pass, you're supposed to get a phone call from our HR folks. I don't know how quickly you're supposed to get that phone call, but or contact, I guess. It may not be a phone call, it could be an email. But just to check on you, making sure that you're all right, and then maybe some of this details will bleed out. Maybe that's a wrong thing, but it will be discussed through that conversation.
And then somebody wants to know, when does this process start?
It started actually. So we actually communicated this process a couple of ways. The district, as a district-wide email, went out, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in December. And then in January, early January, before the semester started, we sent out a FCC-only email saying the same thing, that we're going to start this process starting September, spring semester. So this already started. So we were tasked to provide this particular training just to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So that's what we're doing today. Some of the slides that you saw were also shared during convocation, but convocation is not something that, for whatever reason, maybe we as managers are not encouraging classified folks to come into the convocation as much as we should. So this is a very similar presentation that was given in convocation, spring convocation. I think I added a little bit new things in there, maybe 2 or 3 different things that I added to it, but the body and the message is the same. I can't remember. I think the first week when we came back, into the 5th or the 6th, is when we sent the FCC all email regarding this change, and should have been descriptive there. And I know that the district sent out, I think mid-December, or before we went on break, winter break, they also mentioned something along these lines. Looking at your question, Javier, I would suggest you add on your question that you have, which is regarding allergies, that talk to your supervisor. Don't just wait for HR. I think it'd be best to kind of get ahead of it and make sure that you also talk to your supervisors. If you know, again, you know you. So if you know that during this time of year you just get allergies bad, make sure that you voice that. That is COVID or no COVID, you would have gotten this symptoms regardless. On your next question, Javier, I would suggest you talk to your CSCA reps to answer that question. So the question is there any consequences to not fill out, or is it mandatory? I suggest you reach out to your CSCA reps. Anybody else had any questions, or did I left something unanswered? I didn't realize that the Q&A wasn't going to be part of the presentation. Thank you, Susie, for allowing every question to be answered on video. So that's great.
Thank you. I've got some that haven't been coming in the Q&A. I've been getting them on Teams.
Oh.
So there's no QR. We haven't seen a QR code in the cafeteria.
Oh, there is one. I don't know where it's posted. I don't keep track of as far as like this is a map where they're located, but there is a QR code for the cafeteria. So if there is not one, there should be one. And if there's not one now, I'll go ahead and remind those folks to put them up.
So what happens if a classified is walking around and doesn't see a QR code? Obviously, we can't take too much of our time looking throughout the entire building.
Right. Well, that is the question. That is the issue, right? We're not gonna. We can only provide you based on the solution that was displayed for you, right? So it's not what is it that you're going to do? Obviously, that the correct answer is that we're not going to expect you to do anything because the solution wasn't there for you to use. So that's why it's important to have the solution available. So it's not that you're going to get dinged. You as an end user, whether you're classified, I know it's classified here, but whether you're an administrative faculty or classified, if the QR code is not there, there's nothing as far as from a penalty perspective, if that's where the question was leaning towards, that we are going to be able to do anything about it. If you weren't provided with the solution to scan, you don't create your own QR code, right? So if you don't see one, then you don't see one. You don't have something to interact with. That's what's important to put them up with the high traffic areas, which the questionnaire earlier was mentioning. This makes sense closer to entrances, and then be visible at a high level. So yeah, that's, if you don't see one, then we did not do a good job to make sure that we provided you with a solution in that particular building.
They should reach out to your office, Omar.
They can, yeah, for sure. What I'm going to do is basically pick up the phone. In this case, I'll say student activities the right way. So it should be student activities that probably puts that up, since they're the ones that are utilizing that area. We don't rely on, maybe that's an answer to your other question. We don't rely on third parties to put our QR code solutions, because that's an internal process. So I'm not relying on Taher or I just went blank on
Paulette.
Thank you, Paulette, to put the QR code on our behalf. Somebody should have put it there for us, because there are buildings. Same thing that we don't rely on Bitwise, we don't rely on the SICK Institute, we don't rely on the FU North, we put them up. So that's how it should be happening. So if you don't see one and it's not something that is as noticeable, then we didn't do a very good job putting them up. Now, once you interact with it, you know where location is at. So obviously interact with it at that location. But yeah, to your point, that's something that it's an easy fix. I mean, we have a QR code for every single building that we have here on campus and off campus. That is FCC our inventory.
Sorry, I can't speak. Javier says there is one in the cafeteria. It's on the east facing door. So thank you, Javier, for that information.
Thank you, Javier.
Kaylon says you mentioned there's a map of QR locations.
No, I said there is not one.
There is not one.
No, that's my point. I don't have a map. That's if they didn't come out right, or maybe whatever. But there's no map of the QR code locations because I don't know them. Our job was to provide a QR code to, again, those folks that know their building the best, which is their deans and the directors, and then VPs obviously as well. Everybody got provided a QR code template or master. So every single VP, every single dean has access to this PDFs, and they can print as many as they want, and they can go ahead and put them out wherever they felt was the higher traffic areas.
Any plans for a map, Omar? Might be a good idea.
Yeah, but that requires also, I don't know if we're going to be, I have not chased that because it required that they tell me where exactly did they put them, right? And have some sort of justification. And I didn't want to be, I guess, micromanaging at that level. There has to be a level of trust here as well. Same thing with an end user, for example. We trust you that you're answering the questions correctly, right? So there's supposed to be a level of mutual trust between each other, right? So I don't have plans to go and verify the location of every single QR code, but I have to trust my co-managers and my fellow administrators that they put them up as they were instructed to do so.
And a couple other questions have come in, but I have a question.
Yeah.
What happens if you go to a QR code and it doesn't work? There's a QR code on the outside of OAB 251, and every time I try to scan it, I get an error.
Oh, well, I think we just replace it. It's the same QR code, but here in OAB 251, there was 2 test sites of OAB 251 in the library were the main testers when we were testing this last year in the spring. We just didn't implement it at all here at FCC until the spring semester of this year. So it could be that it's an old QR code, Susie, possibly. Maybe whoever was putting QR codes here in OAB saw that there's ones already there and didn't switch it from production to test. There could be a difference in there. So we can take a look at that and put a new one in there. Elon, So your question is PDFs. Yeah, every single VP and every single dean has access to the team site where the QR codes are located. So they can go get them. Javier, I'm not sure. You're mentioning the map. I'm not sure if I want to go at that level again. I'm not sure if I want to do that. I guess so. Possible. I guess you guys are giving me something to think about, but that's not something that I've been wanting to chase. Again, it's a mutual trust that we have to have with each other. So I trust that those folks are doing their duties.
Maybe I think maybe and I may be wrong. I don't want to presume to speak for the people asking for the map, but not asking for a map of where every single QR code is, but a map of the buildings and what those buildings are called in the app.
Okay. Well, we utilize the college map that's on the website. We just printed that one. You know, that's all we did.
Virginia has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Not so much a question, but just trying to help you out. So this isn't just Fresno City College. This is district-wide. So the district is the one that's actually implementing this. We did agree and we signed the MOU back in March of last year. All the other campuses did get this started, the start of the fall semester. We are super behind because we are a much bigger college. So this may end in the summer. It may end in the fall. It may go beyond that. We're only doing this because we have to continue, as long as we have to report on employees. That's the reason for this, is to help get all of the information so that we can report out. So the use of a map, it's like, okay, we're going to put all of this effort into getting this map. Hey, guess what? We don't need it in the summer anymore. So, it's not just an Omar thing. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? It's at the district level. And so the campuses are just trying to abide by what they were told.
Yeah. And look, I know this is something that can really give us anxiety. I understand that, all of us, including myself, but at the end of the day, I know that there are QR codes in all buildings, maybe not necessarily at the desired location. Maybe that is the issue. So maybe what I'll do is walk with the deans and make sure that those QR codes are located in a visible location. But a map is really hard, to Virginia's point, from the perspective that they're a piece of paper, they're a PDF sheet. They could be gone tomorrow because vandalism, whatever. It happens. We had to replace a few of them because people draw on them. So it's hard to look at a map, for example, and expect something to be there. And we just don't have it. Some of them are taped up, some of them are in paper holders. It's just a PDF sheet.
I don't see any more questions in the Q&A, but as you mentioned, I have enabled the raised hand feature. So if somebody would like to ask their question verbally, go ahead and raise your hand and we'll unmute you to ask it. Go ahead, Kaylon. Should be able to unmute. If you're speaking, you're still muted. There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm not trying to be a pill. I'm really just trying to get clarification. So for this PDF that went to the upper management, directors and so on, did that just show the buildings that they were in, or did it show, because I know some buildings are bigger, they've got multiple entrances or this sort of thing, for where the QR code stands are?
There are no QR code stands, just to clarify. They just got a PDF and they get to choose where to put them.
Okay, so that was that on a building by building? Because I remember last May that they were doing a walkthrough of our building for thinking of what places they were going to put the QR code or the QR stations in.
Right. So this is specifically for you because obviously we didn't do what we thought about last spring. And when I say last spring, that's spring 2021.
Exactly. Yeah.
So in spring 2021, when we were walking buildings, kind of getting ready for this particular solution, one of the things that we were told is to this was going to be beyond an employee solution. It was going to be from the student perspective too. So
Right.
that changes the solution as far as application, right? So we didn't, obviously, like Virginia mentioned, we didn't rolled it out here. Between when we let it go to when we picked it back up, ended up being that it was only a staff solution. And students don't interact with the Ready app. They interact with something totally different.
Right. Yeah.
Just a point and click, right? So that was the difference in approach. So when we walked it in spring 2021, you're right, we were looking at specifically looking for locations for QR code placement for staff and students to interact with that. But when it got switched to only staff, the interaction needed to be a little bit different. They didn't need to have them so front and center.
Okay, because that was what the main crux of my asking in various ways the same question was, because I was thinking, as staff, we know what to do now, but I was thinking students,
Right.
they don't know what to do or where to go, because I was thinking there was still a genuine location. So this makes a lot more sense to me, because I know that they are less likely than, some of us who are older adults, to use these different stands and things. Because my concern was,
Right.
we're going to have a student just get fed up and walk away if they don't know where this thing is, or just say, screw it, I'm going to go through anyway. I've tried everything I could to find this thing and it's not here. Okay, that
Right.
really helps solidify this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin. And just to be clear, the students have their own system. They don't use the Ready Ed app. They use point and click.
Anybody else? Seeing any raised hands, and I don't see any more open questions. Virginia, did you want to add anything?
No, that was it. We had to do this presentation because it was part of our MOU. I got a lot of emails saying that we didn't have the training, and I know we didn't have the training. So this was just a whole, this is clearly training for this app. So we now meet the conditions of the MOU, and it'll be recorded and it'll be available for other people afterwards. So yeah, we can just go ahead and move forward. And now all of our boxes are checked.
And before we go, I do want to thank you again on a Friday afternoon. A lot of you guys, I forget the number that you guys have here, is pretty close to 40 folks are troopers. Appreciate your time and effort. Not the most exciting topic, but at the same time, something that you have to interact with. We all do. Obviously, I do too. We all have to interact with. So thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm accessible. You can send me an email, or if you want to talk to Virginia or talk to Susie, and then that information gets flowed through me. If that's your preferred way, that's fine. I have a good relationship with both. So just let us know how any way we can help.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a good weekend.